If only you could see me now.
Hi, and thank you for joining me for one of Tina's challenges for her 3 items alphabet challenge. Today we're doing E for embossing. I did skip C and D. I can't keep up with Tina. She's doing such an amazing job. So I decided I'm going to experiment with embossing. If you know my channel, you've probably never seen me do any embossing because it's something I usually don't enjoy doing because it's messy and I don't like having this powder all over the place, etc. Maybe it's just because I'm a klutz, I don't know. Anyway, so everything you see me doing here, you don't need to emboss because I know not everybody has the possibility to emboss, but you can just do the same things I'm doing with regular stamping. So I have not tried any of this before I started filming, so some of this might not work, and actually some of it doesn't work. But I'm going to take you along so that you can learn with me. Maybe you can come up with new mistakes. You don't have to make the ones that I'm making. So I chose this postcard image in a clear stamp, and I have no idea where I got this from. I've had it for a long time, but I am linking below from Aliexpress another postcard stamp which is really cool, which actually I'm gonna probably get myself because I think it's really nice. So I decided to go with this black embossing powder on some cheesecloth. I will link the cheesecloth from Aliexpress below as well. I'm really enjoying using that. And now I'm just trying to get rid of the excess powder, and I'm using my heat gun to emboss this. So it didn't really, I don't know what it was doing honestly, because it didn't come out like you would normally expect embossing to look. So it was still matte, and but it did seem like it was done. Like I cut out some of the heating up that I've done, not to bore you, but it seemed like it was done. So that was the first piece, and I'm gonna work with that later. I'm just trying to get all of the embossing done first so that I get the messy bit out of the way so I can continue with the pieces. For my second piece, I'm making a tag, and I'm using this beige cardstock, which I got locally, so I don't know where you could find it, but you saw the details. Maybe you can find something similar. I do like it because it has a very nice neutral beige color, and it is 250 GSM, so it has a beautiful weight to it. So I just cut it down to be the shape of a tag, and now I'm cutting out the same shape with some tracing paper. And the idea is to emboss on the tracing paper and to then have that like as an overlay over that cardstock. So I cut both down to the same size, just adjusting that a little bit, and then I'm going to take a scripty stamp that I have from Aliexpress, which I will link down below as well, and I wanted to have this torn edge on the bottom just because it's something different. And so yeah, so this is the scripty stamp that also has some very nice ticket stamps on it. So as I said, linked below. And as I'm trying to place that, I realized that the script doesn't go all the way to the right and left edge of my tag, and I didn't like that. So I decided I had to cut down that tag so that the script will go from end to end. So I cut it down vertically, and I thought that was going to do the trick, and then I could just recut the corners. But looking at it then, I didn't like that the corners were so big, and it didn't really look nice with the more narrow tag now. So I decided to cut that off as well, and to just recut some smaller corners. So the tag is substantially smaller than I had originally intended, but so it goes, it's okay. So recutting my smaller corners now. Okay, and now it worked out well. So I was going to emboss this, and I chose a pink embossing powder that I had. So I have 4 different, I think it's 4 or 5 different embossing powders. I experimented with these a while ago, like, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago or so, a little bit, and then I stopped again because it was just too messy with the powder. So I haven't used them since, so I am in no way any kind of expert with these, and I'm probably doing everything wrong, but it's okay. We're learning by doing, right? Okay, so now I had my stamped image, so I stamped the scripty image twice, running my powder over it and just tapping off the excess, and that looks really nice. I like how that sparkles actually. Just putting the remainder back in the container and gonna heat emboss that now. By the way, for you that don't have or that have never done embossing before, it does not work with a regular blow dryer. I did try that. It doesn't get hot enough, so you really do need a heat gun for it. So yeah, so that is what it looked like when it was done, and that turned out really nicely. I was very happy with this. So now I'm going to ink around the edges, both of the transparent paper and the tag, of course. And I didn't want to glue that tracing paper down, so I just made a hole on the top, and I'm going to put a hole reinforcer over it, and I have these cute metallic ones from Allison. And if you don't have those, you can just use white ones and then go over it with your distress ink to make it brown. That looks really nice. I do that all the time as well, but I had these, so I thought the metallic would go well with the embossing. And now I'm just tying over that a bit of a trim of one of the cheesecloths. So I'm just gonna make those edges look a little bit nicer. Trim that down some more. It just seemed a bit bulky there. So that is piece number 2. That is ready to go. We will do something with that a little later. And for my third item, I'm trying to work with acetate. Yeah, embossing on acetate. That is that's a fun experiment. I don't know if any of you have ever tried this, but I thought, let's just try it. Why not? Let's see what happens. So I'm cutting down a piece. So I kind of had a vision of what I wanted to do. So I cut down this piece, and I'm using these stamps, which are also Aliexpress, and I'm also linking those down below. And I wanted to have like a little frame. So I choose one of the 2 frames that were on that set, and I'm doing the same thing and just mounting it on my acrylic block, and I'm going to put the embossing ink over it. And then when I stamp that, when I look at the image, which is kind of hard because everything is like see-through, but I did see that it kind of, I wasn't sure whether it had stamped it correctly, so I decided to go for this gold powder. And then once I tapped that off, I looked at the image and it seemed like it was way too wide. So what happened was I stamped it too hard, and so it kind of smudged. So I did the whole thing again on another piece, and this time it turned out really nicely. You can see the image there. Okay, so same thing, gonna heat emboss it. Of course, you have to be careful with acetate because with the heat, obviously it's going to melt and warp and everything. So you can always only just do a little bit and then give it time to cool off again. But still doing that, you see it still warps kind of a lot. But I thought, okay, I'll still go with that. That's okay. I can live with that. So yeah, so that's how that turned out. And so I thought I would maybe use that for a window in an envelope. So the next part of that project was going to be to fold an envelope. So I have these freshly coffee stained papers that I had stained with some stencils, just laying some stencils over it while it was drying. So now I'm just making a very, very simple envelope by folding it one part up and then a smaller part down for the flap. And so that was where I was planning to do my window. So I just marked how big I wanted that window to be, and then yeah, I'm just gonna draw those lines, and then I was gonna, or I cut with my Stanley knife around those, and then I realized that embossing is rubbing off. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to do something with that. Left that to the side, wanted to do the window first. So I'm just cutting that out, and I just put a cardboard underneath so that I wouldn't cut through the envelope. Of course, I would have just also opened the envelope, right? Yeah, sometimes I'm not thinking. Okay, so here's the window. And taking that cardboard out. And then I decided, yeah, but first I of course had to erase my pencil marks. And then I believe I am distressing. I just had to fix some bits there that I didn't like. But then I wanted to distress the edges of that window. Here I'm just checking again whether that would fit. And then I saw this was completely rubbing off. Look at that. So apparently I hadn't embossed it enough, but if I would have embossed it more, it would have become even more wavy. So that was not the solution. So I decided to switch back to this tracing paper, where we already saw that it worked really well. So I stamped the same image on there, put the powder on. Already looked beautiful as it is. And then when I heat embossed it, it immediately turned into this wonderful shiny gold frame that I'm in love with. You'll see it here. Look how beautiful that turned out. So happy with that. So tracing paper is the way to go if you want to emboss. So I'm just cutting that down and just seeing how that would look. And I love that. I love that a lot more than the clear acetate pocket. So now I'm finally distressing the window edge. And now I'm going to glue in my little window. And I don't know why I didn't think of it. I should have used some narrow double-sided tape, because using my wet glue obviously made the edge warp a little bit again. You don't really see it in the end because I do sew around it too, but yeah, this was really unnecessary. I don't know why I wasn't thinking. So if you do this, please use double-sided tape, or probably even a glue stick would be better. Okay, so had my window in there, love that. Next, I wanted to use this tiny corner rounder, which is also linked below. I'm loving this, just for the flap. And then I am going to ink around all the edges of the envelope. And then I took it to my sewing machine and I sewed around the flap. And as you can see, I had some disputes with my sewing machine. I think it was a tie in the end. And yeah. So this is how it looks after sewing, and I'm happy with that. And then I took the same scripty stamp again, used my vintage photo distress ink, just because I didn't want to use black, because I thought that would have been too harsh. And I'm just going to place this in random spots on the envelope just to give it a little more interest. And I've seen this on other people's YouTube. They do that. I think Gail does it. I think Geiker, still don't know how to pronounce her name, does it as well with hers. I think also Shabbydabbydoodah does it as well. So seems to be a known practice, and yeah, it works for me as well. So I'm using that. So now I wanted to add some more lacy lace, just a little bit somewhere, because I thought it needed something to balance the gold in the window for some reason. So I'm trying to figure out what would look the best. So these laces are from, some of them are from the flea market, some of them are from a craft flea market, some are from Happy Mail, some are from Action, a local store here, some are from Aliexpress. So yeah, in the end I go with this one, which is actually from Action, and I use it because it's narrow and it already has the adhesive on it, so I just wanted to have an easy option. I just think that adds something. I didn't want to go overboard with the lace on this. I didn't want it to be too girly, but I did want it to have a little something there. So that's the envelope. I'm really happy with that. So we're going to put this into my journal here. This is the one that I've made, which has the flexible binding, and this makes it very easy to just slip the envelope into the middle of one of my signatures, and that way you can still see all the sides. I didn't have to glue it down in any way. So now it was time to finish working with the cheesecloth, and for the back I wanted to use this beautiful teapot which came in a Happy Mail from the lovely Maud, and I'm guessing that's a part of a stamp set from Alice in Wonderland maybe. So that was going to be one side, and this postcard was going to be the other side. And actually I liked the teapot a lot better than the side that I made, probably because first of all the black was just too harsh, and second of all I don't know, the way it embossed and stamped, it just, I don't know, maybe it's the wrong image, I don't know, I wasn't in love with it. So but anyway, so I cut these to be the same size, and now I'm going to cut some beige cardstock, so anything light would work for this so that you don't really see it through the cheesecloth. And I'm going to sandwich this in between the two pieces of cheesecloth, and I cut it a little smaller because I didn't want it peeking out. And I'm going to again take this to my sewing machine. You could also glue this down, and this way now I have this little postcard which is made out of cheesecloth basically and has cardstock in the middle. And since I like that teapot better than my image, I decided to make this the front actually. So I just wanted to enhance it a little bit because it was a little bit off center, so I thought it needed something on the right side. So I'm again going to just put a little piece of lace right there, and I'm also going to look at some buttons to add there as well. And to keep things simple, I'm just running my glue stick to adhere that piece down because it's very delicate light lace, and I thought that would be okay. And now I'm taking out my white buttons, and I am checking which ones I would like there. I thought two would work nicely, and I'm just trying to find two that I think will look nice together. I didn't want the same one, that would have been boring. So I'm just going through a few options. I thought it would be nice to have two different sizes as well. And I think that is what I end up with. Yeah. So now I'm going to take a sewing needle out of Maud's beautiful needle book that she made me. I'm so happy with it. And I'm taking some twine, and I realized it was too thick to go through my needle, so I decided to just split the thread. And then since it was made out of 3 parts, I instead am just using the one part of the thread. And I'm not actually going to sew through the card because you would have then seen it on the other side, which I didn't want. So I'm actually just sewing through the holes of the button, and I'm just going to tie 2 double knots. I could have, of course, just glued the buttons on as they are, but I think it adds so much just by adding this little touch of having some thread in there. So I did that with both, and I'm just going to use my white glue to glue those on. And I'm really happy with how cute that actually turned out. I love your image mod. It's so cute. This teapot is so cozy. Okay, so now I had these two parts ready, the postcard and my tag. So I was gonna put those in the envelope, but I did want to add some journaling. So I decided to use this piece of paper, a vintage piece that I have received from Allison. And by the way, you should check out Allison's Instagram, which I'm linking below. Not only does she make amazing journals, she has the best vintage ephemera as well, which I think both of those she sells on Instagram once in a while, so it's worth checking her out. So I decided to cut that down to fit the envelope, and I journaled on the back about an experience I recently had with a bookshop that is close to me. So I had visited this bookshop, which is kind of like a specialty bookshop. They specialize on, I guess, beautiful books that you can't really get in like the bigger main stores. Like they have a lot of beautiful books that have like beautiful vintage photographs and illustrations, a lot of plant books and animal books and history books and just beautiful books. And so she has a very special clientele that goes there and that is willing to pay quite a bit of money for these special books. And I had been in there and we got to talking, and I mentioned this in a previous video. So she said I should bring by some of my junk journals, so maybe she could display them for me, and she's happy to help me out if she can. So I did that recently, and I brought her 3 of my books, and she loved them, and she's going to find a way to display these, so that's really awesome. And so that's what I journaled about on the back of this beautiful piece of ephemera. And as you saw, I made this collage, which is now peeking through this envelope, which I love, and I'm going to add these 2 other pieces in there. And that will be my 3 items for this alphabet challenge. Thank you again, Tina. Totally got me out of my comfort zone once again, which I love, and learned some new things along the way. So would be great if you would, obviously you need to check out Tina's video, which is obviously linked below as well. So check out her challenges, try to join her because they are so much fun. So thank you for watching and have an awesome creative day. Thank you. Bye-bye.